Hello. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, verse 16 to 20. There is nothing in this world that lasts forever as it is. The only thing that is unchanging is the eternal. These two forces, the essential and the non-essential, have been studied by the seekers of truth. Know the essential to be indestructible and to be found throughout your entire body. No person or thing can harm it. Our physical bodies are easily destroyed, but the essence within them is said to be eternal. It is beyond all measure and indestructible. Therefore, you must fight, scion of Bharata. One who thinks himself the slayer, or one who thinks himself slain, is in delusion. The essential cannot destroy nor be destroyed, nor is it ever born, nor does it ever die. It has never been created, nor will it ever be created, nor is it being created. It is unborn, eternal, permanent. That which is eternally ancient is not killed, even if its body is being killed. So these verses form part of Krishna's ongoing attempts to unveil the Buddha yoga, the yoga of assessment, to Arjuna, to try to convince him to fulfill his nature and fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. In the last set of verses, he was explaining that there wasn't a time when anybody didn't exist. I mean, that everything that is now is continuing, and that the essence of things persists, and it's only our senses that create this idea of linear time outside of eternity. So here he continues by talking about this concept of the eternal. The eternal is unchanging, but that there are two forces. There's the essential and the non-essential. There's the eternal that is unchanging, and then there is this constant change that is the manifested world. In the manifested world, nothing is ever staying the same. Everything is constantly changing. In the essential realm, nothing ever changes. Everything is absolute. So the essential is something indestructible. It's found inside your body. Nothing can harm it because it is completely outside of cause and effect. If you're outside of time, you're outside of cause and effect. You're beyond anything that can affect change. This is the eternal essence. In the Western context of the metaphysics of reality, you see this in this idea of the tree of life, which is a series of manifested spheres that go from the instant of creation, from the atomic state of, from nothingness really, and then into the atomic state of the monad, absolute, indivisible, and then it becomes progressively into other things until you get at the very bottom of the tree of life, the fully manifested world, Malkuth, the kingdom. And there's a barrier, the abyss, that separates the supernal triad, the top three spheres, from everything else. That's because those three spheres represent absolute indivisibility, a singular point, at which point, even though there's only one thing, it's still defined as one thing. And so therefore there's a comparison that's already happening there. It is one thing as opposed to nothing. And then there is the duality, the line, right? The pair of things. And so those concepts together form this idea of, you could say, the seed of all reality, but it is itself outside of reality because it's outside of any manifested form. You still don't have anything solid at that point. It's only when you get to the fourth state where there can be a shape, where there can be a form, where there can be something that's actually going on. And so before that and beyond that, you get to this like blueprint. It's like the programming code of reality. It's something below everything else, and there's no way to affect it. You can only work within it, unless you can somehow get outside ordinary space and time. So in this moment, as we perceive it, we exist only in this moment. And this moment consists of the place where those two concepts come together, the eternal and chaos, the eternal, that which never changes, and that which constantly changes. These two forces, you have the world in which nothing lasts, and you have the essential, the unchanging, that which lasts forever, that never was not, and that never will be not, and that was not created, is not being created, will not be created, right? We exist in that little sliver where those two forces connect, where they meet, where they cross over, that gap between absolute stasis and absolute chaos. And so you have to know that first, what you have within you, you have this eternity that you can call the essential. It's that which is beyond your perception of your own being. But then you have all these other things that influence you. You have a body. You were born into certain circumstances. You have cultural influences. You have religious influences. You have political influences. So anything that is a product of outside influences is what Krishna defines as the non-essential. And he defines it that in the context of seeking out that which is essential, right? That which is eternal. And why this is important is because it is in the eternal that you can discover the divine. But you also discover the divine in the material, because the divine is everywhere in the material. Except that as long as you're not aware of the differentiation, as long as you're not doing the yoga of assessment, as long as you're not able to say, to recognize that the eternal exists and to see the eternal in all things, then you're not going to see that. Instead, you're going to see a world of suffering, a world of death, a world of pain, a world that is trapped within linear time, a world that is trapped within this concept of an endless cycle of things being created and things being destroyed. So the yoga of assessment requires that you be able to differentiate between these two things, between the eternal and the unessential, that which comes and goes, between what is your absolute innermost very nature, which is to most people inconceivable to them, incomprehensible to them, because everything we understand about ourselves are things we've defined ourselves as, and those definitions are by definition non-essentials, because they're all things that are based on dividing, on separation, rather than on creating. So you have to separate, distinguish between that and the essential, that which is indivisible, which is uncreated, and that is within you. To the typical person, that which you might think is absolutely true about you, or is an essential truth of you, is unbeknownst to you a deep-rooted product of these influences, these conditionings that have come about through circumstances of this particular incarnation, or maybe of previous incarnations, of your environment, of differing influences that have come into your life. And so the way to resolve this, the way to be able to examine this, is by this process of self-inquiry, of going within, of this yoga, of going within and breaking free of that which is not. The practice that is sometimes called neti, and not that, right? Where you look at everything that you think of as part of yourself, and then you observe the reason why to say no to it, to reject it. And Krishna thinks that if Arjuna can just see that and understand that eternal, then he can understand how meaningless the objections that he has are in the light of this eternal reality. That's everything for today.